They caught us having our Laverne and Shirley moment.
Oops. Hey, we're talking about Wisconsin, right? We got cheese curds we were just talking about. It's right after lunch, so hey.
PBR Muker, right?
Yeah.
Welcome back. We are here with Bob from Opus IVS, and we got another presentation. We're excited about this one as well.
Yeah.
Another product launch.
I think the presentation before is about finding what you need to be worried about and put on your estimate. And now we're going to talk about, now that you know, let's do, right? So, and then how do we document that back that we did that on the estimate? So, it's a nice segue. It's almost like he did that intentionally.
It's like it's like we planned
it. It's like
almost.
we planned it, yeah. And
cool.
Everybody knows better.
Yeah, so we are here with Opus IVS to launch the new ScanSafe software tool, I should say, not software, or both, I guess, combination.
Scanning device, lots of features to it.
Yeah, it's a pretty flexible tool. It's pretty cool. We're going to do a cool tools episode afterwards, so definitely keep your eyes open for that in the future. It'll be available, hopefully not too distant future. We got a couple of weeks here. We got some more shows to put together before the editing crew can get to it, but we'll just put Avery to work over the weekends and nights. And
if nobody quits, like week 2 of this show, that'll be awesome.
Awesome. So welcome, Bob. We really appreciate you coming down and spending some time with us. We love what Opus does. We've talked about it quite frequently, and we're happy to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
So tell us about this new cool tool.
Well, the ScanSafe product is new from the perspective of a new device that we're bringing to the market. We, over the last year and a half, learned a lot about launching a total platform, is what we really want to call it, because it's more than just a scanning device, because it's capable of evolving with the individual's skill set within the shop. And what I always like to explain is someone who worked at Starbucks or Best Buy or somebody yesterday is now working in a collision shop, maybe talking to people as they come in the shop. If they need to scan, you can do 5 clicks and have the data from the vehicle. So you don't have to be a diagnostic tech in order to retrieve the information, the valuable information from the vehicle. We can teach that easily. But that's where it becomes more complicated, is what do you do with the codes? What do you do with the faults you see?
Yeah, and we talk about that all the time. Like, anybody can push some buttons, but there's a whole lot more to it than that.
Right. So we've got that part of it, which is, let's get the scanning done, and then let's evolve with the movement of the vehicle within the shop. So at some point in time, we all get stuck. Every diagnostic technician out there's something that they need help on. And whether the scan requires an OE factor scan due to a position statement, or a particular feature on the vehicle requires that, without any experience whatsoever, it's just a few clicks of the button, and then we take over and provide that service. If you're not sure what to do, we have IVS 360, which is 150 brand level technicians who pick up on those calls that are being submitted from the device, and they'll help the individual through the next steps. Right, so that's the evolution. Now, if you have a technician who's very skilled and has a lot of capabilities, the device we have here, the ScanSafe, is probably not going to be to his working, and that's why we'll talk about the DriveSafe device, because that gives some additional tools that a mechanical technician who has diagnostic experience can actually dig in deeper on his own. But if he still needs help, he can click that IVS 360 button and reach out to us, and we'll help him to the next step.
Okay, cool. Well, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the quick safe, or the quick scan part of it first. Let's start there and kind of work our way up to it, through it. So tell us about the quick scan.
Very good. So everyone is talking about pre and post scanning. So what we need to do is, in the most expeditious way that we have, how can we capture the data that's on the vehicle right now? So we've had a collision, there's a series of events that have occurred. What can we extract from the vehicle now, which will be the baseline that we can go back and look at from there. So if we want to do that, we're going to go to the device here. And so we have the ability to show the device from here, but also basically transmit that to a PC. One of the great features we have with the device is that if any troubleshooting needs to occur, we have team viewer access into all the devices. So anytime someone has a question or an issue, or IVS 360 guys get involved, they're going to log right into the device and see everything that we're going to see. So basically, the buttons on the device, I'm going to hit the quick scan button to get us started. And what we're going to do is, I haven't already turned the key on the car, right? So we're skipping a couple steps here just for preparation purposes, but the key is on. And then we're now communicating, pulling up the information related to this specific vehicle. With the VIN number, what are the different features that are on the car, setting up for which networks we need to communicate. And on this particular device, I do have to put a password in, because I have one of the special fun devices with all the good stuff on it. And we'll go ahead and log in.
Now, Bob, when we talk about quick scan, and I see there's a lot of companies in the market that advertise that they have this quick and easy capability.
Correct.
Is there differences in different tools? I mean, is what you're doing right now different than what we're going to do maybe later in the repair? Is it looking at less modules, more modules? I think for someone like me, when you say quick scan, I'm like, does that just mean it's fast, or does it mean it's only doing 10 of 20, or?
Yes, we're going to try and talk to every module that's possible in the vehicle.
Okay.
And that's one of the unique features is we're going to look at every possible module. So for example, guys always complain a little bit about Honda. It takes longer to perform a scan because we're going to try all 80 modules.
Right.
So on that particular year or brand, we're going to try everything that's there. In the case of GM, there can be wild cards. So in this case, we've got to pick a transmission. This happens to be the 9-speed, and that'll keep variables there. Even if you use the factory scan tool, a lot of people know RPO codes, right?
Yep.
Right.
This is where you would have to enter the data to get it more accurate. Now we're going to hit Start Quick Scan. And now we're scanning modules. So this is, talking to each module that's potentially available. And do you have any codes to report? Do you have any information that you're going to provide us? 32 modules is what we're going to attempt. So at this point in time, we have scanned all the modules that are available. And if we scroll down, there are codes in here. So we got some fan codes. And we know this has gotten hit in the front, so we have active grill shutter fault codes.
And I think what's neat is that everybody kind of watching right now is seeing what we're seeing.
Absolutely.
So that's right. Yeah.
So we're scrolling down. There's a ton of codes.
Active air
Airbags
shutter
have been
on.
deployed,
Okay.
right? Radio type codes.
Headlamp
everything-
control modules.
Yep.
Nice.
Inflatable restraint, a ton of those, right? Because
We have
Yeah.
a few- we have
Lots
a
of
few
air
deploy-
flags.
Deployed airbags on this one.
yeah. So basically, everything that we can retrieve. Now, the interesting part is somebody always asks, well, what happens if a module's been knocked off in a collision? How does it know that? Well, every module has a buddy. So with any networking system, there's another module watching out for another module. So if you ask her, hey, we went to Vegas, where's so-and-so? Somebody should be reporting back into who was in charge of that person, right? Where's your buddy? Where's your buddy? And if we had a module that was missing, I would have a networking code, which I'll explain more in a moment, that will report on that module. So you can actually learn a whole lot more. And the interesting part is by looking at the pre-scan data, you wouldn't even have to look at the car. In reality, just because it has an air shutter code and the airbag code, it's a pretty significant collision, right? And you can start narrowing that down. If all the codes for the sensor for like the rear backup sensors are gone and the right blind spot monitor, a module's no longer there, then we know that car was hit in the back. So there's a lot you can learn from the data there, but this is where the magic comes in. How do you interpret and learn how to work that data?
Okay.
All right, so now what we're going to do is we need to get this data out of here, and we need to get it into our repair
Oh, I
order.
thought we just hit the clear codes button and we're done.
Oh,
Well, I
that's
have some
what
questions.
everybody loves to do, right? Right?
Questions. So if right now I was confused, I can go ahead and get that tech support if I wanted it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I'm looking at this and something doesn't make sense, like I'm getting codes from the rear, but it's front end collision, I got an
Absolutely.
instant, kind of like an instant buddy.
Phone a friend.
Oh,
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
and those guys are brand level technicians. So BMW technicians worked at the dealership, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, all the different lines of cars. We've got experts in those particular fields. So they take calls like those every day, and they take calls not only for collision shops, but for mechanical. So they get both sides of the fence, and that's one of the things we have to train our guys on, is how to deal with collision folks, because some of them don't have 10 or 12 years of
We try to
diagnostic
train people how to
experience,
deal with
right?
collision
Yeah,
folks.
good
Yeah.
luck with that.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
we go through
admirable
that.
task.
So I got you here, and
Yeah.
you're like the guru of all this, and I'm like, he's gonna regret ever coming. He'll never come back. So when as a technician in a shop, I hear a lot of times that this pre-scan doesn't matter, and that kind of bothers me because I get the feeling sometimes that maybe there's some stuff here we ought to be paying attention to, like now's the time to really diagnose the car. I'm not just trying to get a report for a it's not like a pre-measure so I can show I fixed it later. We wouldn't want to clear codes here, would we?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
You know,
that's-
and
that's
I'll put
what's-
the question back to you. In the collision industry, how many times has someone fixed a vehicle only to have someone come back and say, ever since you touched my car, I have this problem.
I think
that
only
happens.
about all the time.
Yeah.
Only about all
So,
the time.
so in those particular circumstances, right, that's one measure with which we're using the data for. If it has a P0420, that's a catalyst efficiency code, right? So I had one of those codes and it had a rear bumper hit. It's not the rear bumper collision that caused the 130,000 mile catalytic converter to go
Yep.
bad,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Now we've got the GM pickup over there that got hit in the front,
Yep.
right? Definitely the ambient air sensors are gone. There's a lot of damage to that particular vehicle, right? So there is engine damage, but you know, evaporative emissions codes, things of that would tell those are not part of the collision. So number one, it's a protector.
Yep.
But number two, in the future, we're not really doing this yet, but in the future, this data can be used to help make a better and more accurate estimate
Right.
in the
So
system.
the important thing here, though, is that I don't want to just hook it up, print a report, and clear everything out.
Right.
I don't want to just print out the report. I need to really look at those numbers, because if something's off, I need to know that now.
Yep.
This isn't just something that, oh, check the box on the OE position statement. Great, I got it in the file. And that I have this help because, I mean, I'm a collision repair tech. I am not a diagnostic technician or
Right.
mechanic, and you know, changing the oil isn't exactly on my radar. So, so I sometimes need, I don't understand this code, or why is this coming, and having someone to call, because I can't. In most body shops, the guy next to me knows about as much as I do. So
Right.
us talking about it is no good.
Well, and this is a step that gets missed often, is no one takes the time to analyze the data that's there. Is that because you don't have someone that can do it, or is it because it just doesn't fit in your workflow? You've not established that as a critical point.
And I think it's important because you mentioned it, but it's something that I try to emphasize as well, is what's related to the or what's more likely to be related to the collision and what's less likely to be related to the collision. To again make sure before we start the repairs that everybody's on the same page. You know what? We're pretty sure these are collision related. We're pretty sure these aren't. There's an upsell opportunity there. I think it helps with the communication between the customer, the insurer, the collision repair facility. You can have those conversations up front rather than my car never did that before you touched it.
Well, and I
Absolutely.
don't want to ignore them.
Yep.
And I don't want to just hit clear and think, well, of course it's got all these codes because it's been in a wreck. And then they come up later, mid-repair or end repair, and now I'm scrambling to try to figure out why is this happening and how to fix the car. It's too late then. This is when I'm going to
Yep.
Absolutely.
find some stuff. Sorry.
No,
Like,
that's
see,
good.
he's never coming
All
back.
questions are good, because if you have the question, somebody out there watching this has the same question as well.
Yeah. Well, I am diagnostic illiterate, and I own it. So, awesome. All right. So now we gotta get it out, right?
Let's
They're
get the
there.
data out
Okay,
of there.
get
So
it
we're
out
going to hit buy report right now. And what we're going to do is use the repair order that we've already created. So we got 98889, hopefully for simplicity, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to select the insurance company. In this case, we'll just do no insurance. And in this case, we're going to do a pre-scan.
What's the significance of if I did select? Is that just for reporting purposes for me as a shop?
That
I can
just-
get a report back, or just okay?
It just helps with the additional accuracy of the
Okay.
information, right? We want to distinguish between that it was a pre-scan and not a post-scan, right? We want to distinguish, for the insurance company, it's already going in the RO, so the RO knows who the insurance company is.
Okay.
One interesting aspect that I'm sure you guys know this better than I do, but when I started working, with the Service King guys a year and a half ago, sometimes you have 3 ROs on a car, right? 2 different insurance companies plus customer pay to pick some other things, right? So we ran into that, okay, which RO are we using that's going to have the scan charged
scan
to
bill?
the
Or
estimate?
split
Who
the
gets that
thirds
bill?
and- yeah.
Yep. So
Okay.
now we'll hit purchase. And now what we're waiting is for the data to be pulled from the device, and it's going to be transmitted to the cloud. Simultaneously, it's going to go to our server, and that's the green box that you get to see that says it was successfully sent.
Nice.
And so that indicates that we have completed that process, and all we got to do is simply hit exit, right? So pre-scan is done.
Okay.
And in reality, 3 to 5 minutes, you're done with that task,
Gotcha.
right? So now let's go ahead and we'll go back to the laptop. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the CCC application here.
Okay.
And I'm going to hit refresh. And right here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's the diagnostic bubble. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with CCC, probably more than I am, right? But it indicates a diagnostic scan has been pulled. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that repair order. And that's the neat part is the estimator now knows
Where
the
it's at
first part of the
blueprint.
task is complete.
Okay.
And so here we'll go to the diagnostic report. We'll open that up. And here's all the data that we collected in print form. So there's all those codes that we've extracted. So kind of you bringing up your example, the movement within the shop workflow, you're primed and ready to share that information with the customer because you've quickly created it, you've documented all the codes. Now if there's any variables, because you could go right down the report and say, yeah, that's collision related, well, wait a minute,
A little
evap,
bit more research.
how
on
long
this
has it
one.
been there? And
Yep.
this is why we don't clear codes.
Yeah.
And this is what's being asked in the industry, in addition to getting the codes, is actually what we call freeze frame data or secondary indicators. When did that code occur? An experienced technician can go back in. If you haven't cleared the codes, they could go back in mini modules and find out what mileage did that code set.
Yeah.
So if it happened 10,000 miles ago, it's not related. Be more on that side of it. So that's the report there. And that'll be under the attachments tabs for the people who are CCC savvy. And then for the invoice side, we're going to go underneath the parts tab and by document type. And there's the draft of the invoice. Okay. So then at this point in time, it only says $10 here, but that's where you would adjust the pricing based upon whatever rules you have for the area. Does one insurance company call more or less? Is it a labor charge versus a charge there? And then you add that to the estimate. So that right there is really the crux of quickly getting the data from the device into the repair order.
And one of the things that we talked about, because I think anybody that's watched the show knows how I feel about the customer's vehicle data, and I don't like estimating companies having that data. I don't really feel they have a need for it. But one of the things that we discussed was this tool's communicating with you, and you're just sending a PDF of the printed report. There's no data exchange between the car and the estimating
That's
system.
correct. Right. So
So-
it's the same data that's on that report is shared, but it's basically bits and bytes. What is the code? What is the description of the code? There's no other data
Yeah.
that's being transmitted, nothing related to data parameters or any other control features.
Right.
It's down and dirty quick.
And so for a lot of us in the industry and a lot of people out there, this week is also CIC, and last week at CIC, or last CIC meeting, we did a lot of talking and debating on what was going on with the whole Carfax reports and how is my body shop data showing up on a Carfax
Yep.
report or whatever. And so the industry's just really sensitive to
Yes,
that.
yeah.
And,
Right.
And,
And rightfully so.
Right, exactly. So this is definitely something, if the integration tool, if you use that estimating system, you don't have to worry about your estimating company is not cruising the customer's vehicle black box data and looking for, for any information there.
Correct. Now, what I'm going to show you now is just in case you're not a CCC customer, right? Where would that data be available to you if you didn't have that feature? And so what we're able to do is we have a site that you can visit that has the data that's collected. So every report goes to us and goes to CCC simultaneously. So if I go to ScanSafe reports, which is the one that we just used, the ScanSafe device, and we'll let it populate. And so there's that GMC terrain, right? So in the event that you're not a customer of CCC, you still have the option of capturing that report, and it would have all the codes and all the information there. And there's also a sample invoice, but typically you'd make your own
Right.
if you were going down that path.
Okay.
So that is quick scan in a nutshell, right?
Awesome. Okay.
So when we think about the next steps, right, it's where does the vehicle go after that point?
It's going into the technician.
It's going to go into the technician side. And this is one thing we do know is that basically doors are going to be taken off, deck lids are going to be taken off. Actually, codes are introduced while you're working on the
Wires
vehicle.
going to be disconnected, reconnected. Yep.
Correct. So that's where we go to that next step, which is, okay, how do we clear codes? Now, what I'm thinking of doing, we'll go over here and use the drive safe device,
Okay.
right? And in this case, you guys have already been trained, right? So I'm going to
He's putting a lot
let
of
you
stock in
drive, right? So I think we need to turn the key on this vehicle.
Okay.
So let's turn the key on. And let me change the screen on the laptop here so you guys can see what they're seeing. See if we can turn you into a diagnostic tech yet.
Oh, if you could do that, Bob, you're gonna be a millionaire. Okay.
All right, so
I've pushed the non-key button. What happened to keys? I mean,
you know,
really?
yes,
Give me the keys.
yeah, we've had to remove that from the documentation because it's not always a key, right? And then
Right.
this one requires a 5-second push on there to get in. Sometimes it's 3 clicks on the BMWs. It's all over the place, right? So
Is there a cheat sheet for that in here, Bob? Is there?
that's, you know, it's quick and easy, right? Quick and easy.
Okay.
So all you need to do now is hit Auto ID. We're going to refresh the VIN.
Okay. Did somebody make a?
Why is it making that sound, Chris?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what I did. I
It's a
just know
Subaru.
somewhere at Opus, the guys that run the 360
They're all
just
running
suddenly went
around
on
it.
lunch break.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we're off. She's touching a tool.
Now you mentioned CCC. Is that CCC ONE workflow? Where were we going with the quick scan before?
In you know, what we're looking at is the desktop application.
Okay.
So we were looking at the repair order number, you know, that had already been pre-created. So let's retry it again. It has been sitting for a moment.
Yeah.
Let's make sure, do you have the check engine light on?
Everything's lit up.
Okay.
Did I do it right? Is this one I have to hold for like 3 seconds or so?
Well, we'll check and see here real quick. Just
So I
be
asked if
sure.
there was a cheat
Because
sheet.
that is
Is
the
this
magic,
the
right?
three?
Well, that's
Yeah,
why I
so
had
right
you do
now,
it, not me.
right now the check engine light is not on, right?
Okay.
So let's double tap the ignition switch,
Okay.
the ignition button, right? And this is a
My
good training,
favorite
right?
firearm statement.
Because the other
Yeah.
issue that we have is where is the OBD connection, right? Where is
Yeah.
that connection? So we should be able to click it twice.
I did. Okay, I did.
One more time.
The press brake.
Because we don't necessarily want to start it. You should be able to turn it on without that.
Yeah.
Let's try that again. There you go. Those are the lights we want to see. Just like that.
Okay.
So if you're scanning, the important thing, you should have lights on the dash, particularly the check engine light will always be illuminated. It's part of
Okay.
an OBD test. So that will be part of that. So we'll give it a moment here.
Where's Olson? Subarus.
I think he's still at lunch. him and Larry done for the day.
Did y'all pre-plan this?
Yeah,
They were gonna have
they're
Kristen
gone.
try to do this, and tools may end up flying across the shop.
Patience, right? Patience. And we'll wait on it because we know the internet speed here is a little bit on the slow side because we have embedded cellular modems built into the devices.
Nice.
There we go.
I think we're also
There
using
we
every
go.
bit of bandwidth we got
We
to
are,
simulcast
yeah.
to all those.
Yeah, we're about 2 bars. So now let's go ahead and put the repair order number in on that one. And it's a magical spot that you got
Oh, there we go.
to tap.
9.
Did we want to give mileage? Should
And
we
you can
give
put it on
mileage?
there.
Is it in there?
You know, one of the interesting things about mileage, which we often talk about, you know, in the mechanical side typically is how many miles did you put on the car after the repair,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's one of the things that I like to look at is, you know, what's been done. So go ahead and click OK if you
All
got
right.
everything in.
I do, sir.
And now you only have one choice here, right? And this is one of the things that we learned. In the previous version of this device, you had 6 buttons to choose from, right? This one has the 6 buttons, but it's laid out a little bit different strategy. But this one, you can only do pre-scan because it knows it's never had a pre-scan. So go ahead and hit pre-scan.
Log in.
What we may have had is, like I
Time
said, the
going on
internet
us.
issue. Try it one more time. So I think that's our log out deal. Let me go here. I'm going to log out real quick. This is one of those magical things, right? When you're doing these types of programs.
Well,
I think part of the problem is we let Kristen do this. I think that's
I
probably
agree.
was,
I
that's
don't know what
so-
y'all were thinking.
I'll take responsibility for that,
Yeah.
Bob. I won't let that happen again. Next time we'll.
Well, it also, you know, when you're trying to do a live show across 6 social network platforms from Arkansas, you know.
See if I get this right. Because sometimes it goes to sleep,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, designing the device like your cell
Sure.
phone has to be woken up periodically.
You know, that's a good thought, though. I probably ought to make sure we ought to update our internet in the shop. Probably a lot of shops need
Usually
to
that's what
update.
we're waiting on right now. We're just waiting on it to swing out there.
Yeah.
So let's try this.
Now earlier when the vehicle shut down, could that have been maybe because we had, the key was, because of the safety device in the vehicle, the key's been on for too
Yep.
long, or shut down automatically. One suggestion that Mark and I were talking about the other night was putting the flashers on potentially, so that it keeps the vehicle like awake
that's a good
potentially,
idea.
and
Yep.
also lets people know that you're potentially scanning the vehicle. So again, if that's part of your SOPs, that hey, let's put the flashers on so that we know that we're in the midst of
Vehicle's
something.
active.
Yep.
Especially, I guess, if I'm walking away and waiting for a technician to join me, that is going to
Let
be
me check
that
something here real
expert,
quick.
right? That's going to walk me through, and I may have a wait time. I still need to let everybody know in the shop, don't touch the car.
Yeah.
It's
just
kind of
leave
like,
it
like the TriOxyClean has that bright
Right.
yellow light that tells me I have to open the doors.
Yep, or when you got a hybrid vehicle, or you're putting the sign on top, letting it know it is disabled or it
Yeah.
is enabled or whatever.
Yeah,
so
yeah. This is why I don't come out in the shop very often. I
Yep.
wonder why I stay in my office.
It's coming back online. This is what happens when we go live, right?
That's right.
Sometimes it works perfectly,
Hey, I
sometimes.
told you
Needs
the
a little help.
360 guys done went to lunch. They knew.
you took down the whole Opus operation.
Wait,
at the-
no,
Yeah.
we're not talking to her. Yeah. Oh, hey, here we go. Welcome, Bob.
There we go. Now
Right,
we woke it up. So
so I'm
let's
gonna do
start
drive?
for, yep.
Okay.
All right.
And turn the ignition to the on position, which I've done. Am I allowed to select next?
Yep.
Continue. Okay. All right.
There we go.
And part of it too is we're also stealing some bandwidth too, because I'm
Yeah.
talking to the device in the background while we're doing that.
Well, we were just talking about, I think a lot of shops, we used to worry about, did we have air, and then did we have the right electricity to run the welders, and
Yep.
now I have to have great internet throughout the whole shop. Sometimes hard for larger companies because your IT department wants to lock the internet down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going to one of the MSOs and telling them you got a program that needs to tap into their network and watch them freak.
So still thinking, what is it? What has got up there on the screen?
Checking the VIN.
Okay. Let me see what that message is.
Car's doing good.
Yeah, I think that's part of our challenge is to a little bit on the internet side is giving us some
Yep.
fits. Because that's what it uses is so much,
Right.
retrieving the VIN information. Always the magic. And if it keeps
See,
giving us some trouble, we'll
The old
maybe
painter
switch
in
the
me
internet
says
connection.
Just hit it till it.
Just keep tap.
Right.
Tap.
That's what I do on the paint booth when the
Yeah.
lights won't come on.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, so I think what we'll do, I think we got it kind of caught in a loop.
All right.
So what we'll do is this, is the magical shut off, right? So what I want you to do, well, maybe it's coming around, huh? If I've disconnected from it. So let's go in here. Let's see if the power button responds. So let's go ahead and do the wonderful magic of shutting it down. We'll wait 10
All right.
seconds,
Okay, well,
and then we'll segue
Yeah.
to something while it
Hey, you guys go
reboots
talk.
back
Let me-
up.
Yeah,
let me boot this
let's
back.
do that. So
Yep.
let's talk about the OE scan. Maybe before, while we're waiting for that to go up, why don't
Yep.
you give us a little bit of information on what the OE scan feature is?
Yeah, the OE scan.
And where is that available? Is it available across the line? Is it available on ScanSafe? Where is that
It's
everybody?
available on both devices, and the purpose of the OE scan is to utilize the factory software. So when you hit that button, if we're going to do an OE scan on a GM, we're going to use the factory GM software,
Okay.
right, GDS, and that's in the background. It's the areas that you can't see. That's what we call the bootloader software that we have is built around that particular purpose. So
Okay.
the OE scan, we're going to use the factory software. and they're going to attempt to clear the codes. Now, the important point I like to make about the OE scan is we see this a lot, that someone thinks that by using the OE scan, it's better at clearing codes than the aftermarket scan tool, right? And this is one of the things we see. If you have a post scan and you're unable to clear the code, it's likely a hard fault code that another scan tool is not going to solve that problem, right? So you've got to basically go back and say, why is this code here?
You haven't fixed the problem.
You haven't fixed the problem. And I've watched people scanning multiple times over and over and over and over again, trying to get a different strategy.
Yeah.
And we could probably even try the collision network. You guys, you know the password for the one here, right? Edge?
Yeah.
So when you get it up there, click on the Wi-Fi, and then you could put that password in there, see if working off that. It takes about 2 minutes for it to come back up. All right.
So the OE scans just is like I said, it's using the OE software more than just the quick scan.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, in the case of Chrysler, for example, Chrysler has a secure gateway module.
Yep.
So the devices can do it, but a shop has to be signed up to have the Chrysler credential, right? So in that particular case, we're able to go in and use that Chrysler software on those late model Jeep, Chrysler type products and go in and clear the code. So that's one of the ones we see more often than not. If you're a Honda certified shop, you're a GM certified shop, any one of those programs, if you're working with any of those, then you could be in compliance by performing the scan with the device because you're actually performing that scan.
Okay.
And let me show you, just so you have an idea of that.
Okay.
Let's go back to this Opus area here. The Cadillac, my rental car, every rental car has to be subjugated to some type of testing. So you'll notice here, that Cadillac that I scanned, this was an OE scan.
Yep.
And so it went through every single one of these modules, right? Were there any DTCs stored? Which ones did not communicate? And that was pulled basically using the ScanSafe device.
Okay.
So all I did was plug it in.
Okay.
I hit the OE scan button. I requested that scan out to our team. That's either in Ann Arbor or New York or Huntington Beach.
Okay. Would
take control of the device and do this scan for us.
Okay.
So that's where you can see the GDS2, that is the original report that's
Got
there.
it.
And then there's what we call the consolidated report.
Okay,
if there
so
are
we
any
can
codes.
see the scans versus the OE scans.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, in this case, there were no codes present, so the report is nice and clean.
Got
so
it.
that's what you want at the end of your post scan.
Yep.
That's what you want. You want everything clear. You want everything in good condition there. Okay, so what I was thinking of doing now is to talk more about, you know, the scanning strategy and a little more of the details of the device, right? So if we look at scanning just from the principle of a quick scan, all we're trying to do is get some codes and send that data. If you can't analyze it, get somebody to analyze it. But in reality, what's happening behind the scenes is more of what's in the device itself, right? So in this particular case, if you wanted to run an OE scan, let's say right now we wanted to do a Honda factory scan or GM factory scan, what would we have to do? We would have to go get a laptop. We would have to get a J2534 device or the OE device. We would have to sign up for a subscription to General Motors. We would have to download all that software. We would have to install the drivers for the J2534, get all of our credentials in line before we can click the first button to scan the car. That's what you'd have to do.
I can't even turn the power
Multiply that out, right?
We're out. We're done.
Multiply that out by many, many manufacturers, right? That's really the key there. And the beauty of the J2534 device that's evolved really since the early 90s with OBD is that most of the manufacturers allow you to use their OE software through a J2534 device. The difficulty is managing the PC. Joey at AE Tools, I think you know Joey Hendrick, he produces laptops for shops. He has to have at least 3 different partitions on that laptop because Ford software doesn't always play with Mazda because they use very similar drivers and DLLs. They can't play with one another. So this becomes very complicated for a shop to do.
OE scan tool is just not feasible for a collision repair center fixing multiple models of vehicles. If I'm a dealership, cool, right? But if I'm, you know, Bob's Collision Center and I've got a Nissan and a GM and a Subaru at any given week, owning all that, just not even just the money wise. Some people have, you know,
there's the expertise on top of it.
It's the expertise. It's maintaining the physical hardware of the laptop. That's a lot of IT. And you know, like I said, I'm struggling to just turn the car on.
Yeah.
And that's
So-
the brilliance, right? We take the J box, we put it in there, we put a PC together, we load all the software on the device. So all you have to do is hit OE scan. Put some pieces of information in there. We'll walk through it all the way up to the point of doing an OE scan. So you see, what does it take to actually do that? It's about 6 screens and you're done. And then you wait, you know, one of our folks will call you back. They'll ask you the couple questions, right? What was the question I asked you guys when we got ready to start scanning on this car? What did I want to have hooked up?
Battery tender.
Battery tender. That's the number one thing we find at shops. They do not have a battery tender. Typically they have a battery charger, but not a battery maintainer. Some scans on some cars will take 20 or 30 minutes,
Right.
not because of our software taking the time, but because the car
module.
actually takes that long. A
No.
BMW takes longer.
What happens if I start running low on that voltage? Why is that so important? I think that's something that we definitely want to share with everybody about why is it that we talk about using battery support.
Modules go to sleep. So if the energy, if we're trying to scan
We know
the car,
that, right? We just had that.
and the module goes to sleep, right? So it drops off, and all of a sudden it says, hey, I can't talk anymore, this one can't talk anymore. Now you start producing fault codes in it that would create an issue for you.
Okay.
So that's what we did with the ScanSafe and the DriveSafe, is we took that J2534 interface, we put it in there, we put the PC in the device, and built a user interface that pretty much anybody can use. So that was the goal in that particular area. So that's kind of the 101 of the vehicle connection. And I always bring this up because that's our next level of tech support, is we got to plug it into the car.
Yep.
Right? And what we're anticipating is that we should have a ground on pin 4, that connector, and we should have power on 16. That's difficult for some collision shops. If I plug the device in and it has no communication, well, why is it not communicating? Sometimes in a collision, fuses get blown. Things happen with the vehicle that may preclude it from allowing that to occur. Nice thing about the ScanSafe device is that we do have an LED that shows us that we have power at the connection. And this device does not have a built-in battery, so if it doesn't power up,
not
you know that you've got a problem at the connector. So that's
Oh, I
one
like
of the
that.
extra features. That one has a battery in it,
Yep.
right? But in many cases they plug it in, they don't know. We've got a lightning bolt that kind of shows that to them, that there is power there. But a collision person who's not familiar with diagnostics, like, I was just taught how to plug it in and push these buttons. What if it doesn't work? And you know, that offers you just a little bit more information on, you know, all the different networks that are out there. All right, so we talked about that. This is one of the questions that we get pretty regular, is if it doesn't communicate now, how do I deal with the lack of power to it? Some manufacturers have a dedicated fuse. Some manufacturers, in the case on this Chevy Silverado, it's the same fuse that feeds the lighter. We can't really call it a cigarette lighter anymore, right?
Yeah.
We call it a
my cell phone
power
charger.
adapter,
Power
right?
adapter.
So
Oh,
anybody
right.
who plugged in whatever to pop that fuse, now you're not able to scan with the car. Okay? So that's that piece of it. Then if you're a little more studious, and I brought this slide in here mainly to talk about the fact that our IVS 360 guys, one of their tasks when they communicate with a collision shop is to determine who we have on the other end of the line.
So is this where you quiz us to decide whether I'm competent or not?
It's the question, right?
Now I
That
know why
says,
I'm on this show.
you know, the scan tool won't work. Well, okay, tell me what. It says I have no communication.
It's your scan tool won't work.
Yes.
I mean, I'm clearly not going to take any ownership of that in the collision repair industry. Your tool don't work.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so we had another question come in, which I think we may have already answered kind of live here. How internet sensitive is the unit? The internet service in some shops is generally not optimal, I'm guessing. Optimal. Will this cause some problems?
Yeah, you've experienced it, right?
Yeah.
This is the real world.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, John, for that.
So it's one of those things where, you know, and like I said, we were talking about it.
Yep.
You know, I used to worry about, do I have the right power, 3-phase, et cetera, in the shop? Do I have the right air, clean air to run my tools or whatever? Well, now I got to worry about internet.
Yep.
And so, you know, that may mean it's not about just bringing in internet into the office anymore. I may have to actually call a company to come out here and help me run repeaters through the
Correct.
shop to get us, you know, we're in a metal building.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if I have to have a couple of repeaters put in so that I've got cell signal or cellular or wireless signal everywhere I need to be working, that's part of now owning a shop. So
Yeah.
If
Check
you
it
want
off.
that level of communication, you're going to have to step up. Like, I mean, I've got my cell phone, it's Verizon.
yeah,
I've got anywhere from 1 to 2 bars, right? and it keeps dropping in and out. And so it is very internet dependent, but it's not something you can't fix. Right? And it's not expensive for someone to come in and set the shop up, because in reality, if you're doing all the other computer things that you're doing in the shop, you need to have a good internet connection anyhow, right?
Yeah, I think, whether it's, using Picatech you're going to need it for, or accessing OEM information, doing virtual training, whatever that might be, just-in-time training right at your machines. I think it's all important. It's just something that we need to evolve into.
A good wireless repeater system is not that expensive. Now, I do know that a lot of shops that we've met with recently are doing kind of like a dual channel, right? So there is an IT security situation, and there's hey, I'm going to be communicating with your cloud, and I'm going to be doing this. So maybe if I'm not going to be sending all my stuff to the estimating system, if I want this security, whether it's Picatech or whether it's this, I may bring in another extra internet line that's not on my servers.
Yeah.
Right. So, because like I said, some shops, when you tell them you need to tap into the internet or you need to give the technicians internet access, they're like, oh no. That's not going to happen. So that may be that you drop another line. So definitely something to think about.
It's the challenge, but everything we do is cloud-based, right? Everything is going that direction. Every single device in the shop, everybody's trying to get the data from that device into the cloud to share with some piece of software someplace. So, and it's the challenge, but it's not insurmountable, right? That's the key. If we went outside right now, it'd be perfect, right? But the steel, metal building, concrete, rebar creates.
Which is good when it was raining a while ago, right?
Oh yeah, that was great. Yeah. So so you talked a little bit about IVS 360 again, having that technical support there. What about the RAP program? What is RAP?
Wait.
Oh, wait.
Is that we were talking about DMX earlier?
No, I knew I knew you were going to go
you knew
there.
I was going to go there?
I thought by not having Larry here, we wouldn't have to have that conversation
that's
again.
My job. That's what I do.
Let me do this so that we've got some reference to talk against, because I got a slide in there that talks about programming, so that those in the audience can understand what we're talking about. So what is reprogramming? It's a term, a generic term for lots of different options. Reprogramming in the mechanical word typically means the software in the device, the software in the controller has received an update from the manufacturer, and in order for that module to communicate correctly and do the things it needs to do, you do a software patch, right? So that's the most common thing in the mechanical area, would be a typical module update in the software. And that can happen on the ADAS side as well, that maybe a new version of a module came out, you had a collision in the right rear, now you got to replace that module, and it has a newer software in it than the left side module. And so what you need to do is two things. First of all, you got to update the software in the module that you're putting in, brand new, and then you got to update the software on the other module to match them up.
Okay, so
that's software updates.
Hold on. All right, so I got a hit on the right side. I got to buy a new right side blind spot monitor because it got obliviated. Before I can do the blind spot monitor calibration and deliver the car because of the right hand impact, I now must go reprogram and look at the left side module. Okay?
Yes, and that's where research comes in. Research, and looking at technical service.
The reason why I'm leadership.
Yes.
Leadership doesn't have to get anything. We just
It is the crazy thing that we live in, right?
We get a big chair. That's what we get.
So then there's new module programming. So brand new module.
Yep.
And so you got a late model Ford F-150. It's got blind spot. The rear corner got hit. You just put in the new taillight. And now you've got to put the information in that module, because that module is the same part number that could be on an F-150, it could be on a Ford Focus, it could be on any brand of that Ford vehicle. That same module's identical, same plug-in. Now you have to tell it that it's this high off the ground, or it's low to the ground, or it has a different configuration. So that's what we call putting in new module programming. So it's blank, and it needs to be told how it should react on that particular vehicle. Now in the case of the Ford, other than putting the module in, programming it, there is no calibration except for driving the vehicle, right? And a good road test, not just a buzz around the block, right? A good road test.
Well, if it's his Raptor, I'm doing donuts in the parking lot.
Yeah. So then there's other systems, right? So reinitialization, variant coding. So you put an airbag module in. Once again, it has to be configured and matched up so it communicates to other modules.
And I believe a lot of GM vehicles too, for a lot of the ADAS systems, when you're going through the install, it doesn't really talk about calibration, but it talks about do programming when directed by the scan tool. So the only way you can do that is if you're in the scan tool. Otherwise, you don't know what
Correct.
you're doing. So
Is
again,
this
more
another-
reprogramming.
So here's my fear, right? We as collision repair technicians struggle to do the things we've been doing for the last 30 years, like welding, right? And now this is my fear, is that if I don't have an OE level tool and I don't have something like the support, your master technicians guiding me, I can really make some big mistakes that affect customers.
Absolutely.
And there's no tool, Bob, there's no tool out there that just does it for you, right? That just automatically fixes everything and all you have to do is push a button. I haven't found that tool
There's
yet.
no magic wand yet.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's, I think one of the most frustrating things to me is when I open up the magazines in our industry, you know, money talks in a lot of situations. And companies that buy 4 or 5 full page ads in every magazine out there, or salesmen that come by your shop say, oh no, our tool does it all. And there is no tool. It does still take a high-level skilled technician,
Yeah.
and that's not us.
Yeah, that's
That's not Larry. I mean, that's one of the things we, know your role is I'm doing all I can to weld panels on and do my job, much less try to do this.
You got to have the proper tool. You've got to have the proper training and knowledge and skill. It
Yes.
all fits together, and
Yep.
without one, it's the old chair syndrome, right? You pull one leg of the chair out.
yeah,
then
three-legged
forget about
stool.
it.
I taught that for
Yeah.
years. Repair efficiency. You got to have service information,
Yep.
right? Robust service information. In many cases, only the OE service information has it, because you guys are working on new cars, right? I got a phone call today about 2021 models
Yeah,
showing up at collision centers already.
absolutely.
We're pretty quick on the dime for that, but a 2021, that's pretty new in
Yeah.
the cycle, right? You got to have service information, you got to have the proper tools, and an educated individual, right?
Yeah.
And this is the magic of the device, right? So what we've tried to do is come as close as we can to that magic wand, right? It's going to be difficult to provide that level of education to everyone in the field. I've been in the industry 40 plus years. Started out at 16 years old. I could tell you the same things that I'm really dealing with today are the same things we talked about when I was 16,
Yeah.
scanning, not really scanning cars for shops, but electrical repair.
Right.
I mean, just get the light bulbs working, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't, the paint and body guys
Hey.
did not want to make the turn signal
I
work,
had
the
a
brake
case
lights
of
work, or
1032s in the cabinet, right?
so that's the magic of the device. So if you have capabilities, you can go as far as you want. But if you get stuck, the lifeline's there.
Yeah.
Because our guys, you tap that IVS 360, cut to the chase. Don't mess with it for a day. Call somebody right away.
Right.
Right? It's for the cost of that interface with that technician. He can help you make the decision very quickly on what to do.
I'm baffled at those shops that try to think that they can do this without the help, because I mean, we talk in meetings, we can't find quality body techs, we can't find preppers, we can't find detailers. Things that I don't want to say are low skill positions, but are definitely not, I need a
Not
computer
this, yeah.
software degree to figure this out. But so we struggle with this. Why in the world we think we can buy some tool and a kit that we saw in an ad and suddenly we're diagnostic and calibration technicians just blows my mind.
Yeah, like you said right earlier, whether it's a welder or a scan tool, you still need to have that skill set.
Yeah, and I, as a, I consider myself educated, and I go to all the industry meetings, and I try to stay at top of what's going on. I couldn't oversee the training of a technician
No.
because I don't know that role.
No.
So to think that I can develop that person in-house and have that as a skill set within my collision center is a myth, and it's like it's worse than a unicorn almost. I don't know. So I need to have you, who has those people, and you're overseeing them, and someone like you's overseeing. So you know whether those guys are good, and if Bob says they're good for me. Yeah. So that's all I need to know.
And there's still challenges that we have because we have to communicate to the people on the other end of the line.
Right.
So
his
that's
way
why I
of
brought
saying,
up that
"Krista, my people
multimeter,
don't like
right?
talking to you.
Because we can tell you, take that multimeter, turn it to volts,
Yeah.
right? And I want you to go to that 6-pin connector that's in the back, unplug it, turn the key on, and then tell me if you have 12 volts there, right? Can you do that?
That's
It's
a trust exercise.
No, right? But there's some guys who could, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's where we have to look at it, say, we treat every IVS 360 call as a beginning stage, and we evaluate who the person
where they're
is
at and then
making
go
the
from
call.
there. Yep.
And there are times when we have to clearly say, okay, it's a Honda. It has to have a seat weight calibration. Number one, do you have the seat weight? 22 pounds. Do you have it? Yes or no? If you don't have it, can't help you. Can you get 22 pounds together?
How many jugs of milk is that?
But that's the deal. Same thing with the ADAS calibration. We can push the buttons on the scan tool. That's easy.
Right.
That's easy. But the other person on the other end of the line, and that's where the challenge comes in, is helping them get to that point. Let's make a quick decision so you don't waste time in the shop, because we know collision shops are measured based upon hitting that mark, getting that car out by a certain period of time. So make the decision to hit IVS 360 early, and then we'll help you sort through what you need.
Right.
If you can't do it in the shop, then at least you can make a very quick decision, say, let me get a hold of a mobile guy, it's got to go to the dealer, whatever the case may be, at least you came to an educated decision. It's not a guess.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's one thing I really love about the whole system is, again, you've got the quick scan capability to get the pre-scan, pull those codes. If I get stuck, I've got the IVS support. I've got the opportunity to do the OE scan, the program. I mean, it's flexible.
Correct.
And I think that's one thing that's really makes it a cool tool.
Right.
Is that flexibility?
And it's what we need. I'm gotten to the point where I think we're trying to put this process into a very finite bottle, and we want to say it's either half an hour or it's X number of dollars, and it's very clearly not. So there's too much riding on it. When I think about what all you're thinking about just in the reprogramming, or what I need to catch, or the safety I have to do, there's a lot to be said that me painting that fender isn't going to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to pay me more time on an estimate to paint the fender than you want to give me to do this, which ensures safety. And so I just think we got a lot of conversations we have to have.
Oh,
we do for sure.
But I think take the guesswork out, right? I think that's where the industry's made some critical decisions, I believe. Companies like Opus or, Aztec, the Air Pros, the companies that are in this world, the mobile guys, they've identified this as an opportunity to help the industry, right? So building the right kind of tools is going to take time, and that's the evolution that we've gone through in a year and a half with what we call the drive crash device. That's been an evolution of figuring out, we built an interface that we thought that anyone could use. It's a piece of cake. And we tested it in the field, and we realized we needed to make it simpler, right? And so we've gone through that evolution. Well, I don't think the problem is hers, right? It's conditional, right? But it's frustrating.
I'm sure it's probably me.
It's frustrating. When it happens, it's like, why is this not working?
But that's what happens. Yeah. It's real life, and it's a real scenario.
Well, that's half the time I plug in my welder and it don't work either.
That's a whole nother. We'll deal with that later in the week.
We can do a troubleshooting episode.
Well, I don't see any other questions coming in, so we're good there.
Yeah. I mean, I love the tool. I love what it does. I love the feedback that I'm getting from. I have glass shops using this tool. I have collision repair centers using Opus as a company and the tool. I still sometimes.
So let's do this. We have this one here working. So IVS 360 is the one that we really, have been talking about. So, right here is where we're going to put in some information.
And this is why they don't
answer. So if you don't put it in there,
don't put Kristen in there.
So
we're going to put in.
Put some of the other than Kristen's name in there.
Yeah, let's put in Jason.
You're going to start calling a lot.
Are you going to be able to give your cell phone number? Or you want to type your cell phone number in?
Go ahead. That's 847
847
915
915
8743.
743.
Somebody please call him and tell him his refrigerator's running.
So we got a series of information there, and I guess we probably should do this so you guys can actually see it, right? Seeing as that we have the ability to show that. Minimize this.
I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah, that's probably best at this point.
Let's just make sure that it's...
Every time we do this, Jason, whether it's like the ADAS class that you've put together, whether it's the last go round we had in here, I'm fascinated at the people that think that I'm just going to bring this in house.
Yeah.
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 But it's a true statement that you can,
right,
with conditions, right? You got to create a totally different workflow that has not been laid out on paper and measured, right? It's a different strategy.
You need to figure out roof on too, but that don't work.
Nope.
you got to figure out where do you want to be. What
Yeah.
does it look like? What's your end game? You know,
Right.
what ultimately do you want
So
to
you
be?
guys got it? We're live again?
What do you ultimately want to be? And I think that's important.
So repair planning,
Boom.
okay? And then over here, doing a test. Let's see. Because we're on a test device, right? And you were going to purchase it, and that's just going to say that, you
Okay.
know,
I need help.
that SMS applies to your cell phone. So right now, it's gathering the information. It's got some information in the device that it can pull and send as well. And so in a moment here, you should get
To me, this kind of reminds me
a
of
buzz
mul-
to your phone.
Thank you for contacting Opus IVS from your C regarding 2020 GMC Terrain. Please wait as we locate a support agent to help you.
They're in
There
the
it is.
office doing this.
Right, so this, now it's in queue, right? So we're basically waiting on that technician. Normally 10, 15 minutes at the most will be normally the time that's there. And then once they take the queue, they'll send you another text message. Hey, is the device connected up? You know,
sure
is the
everything's ready
ignition
to
key
go.
on?
Yep.
Is what connected to the car?
Battery support.
Battery support connected to the car, right? And by the way, we do know if it is connected to the car because we can measure the voltage in the device.
So I can't lie
Right,
about
so if it's
it.
at 11.9 volts on a 12.6 battery, not good, right?
Gotcha.
And you know, we want to help you, right?
Yeah.
And you know, we were having that conversation before we even started. A $600 battery maintainer, what?
Yeah.
But it's the best investment you can possibly
Yeah.
make because these cars will not tolerate that. When we do scans at a collision center in Phoenix, we do a ton of scans at the Penske Collision Center. No matter whether it's a pre, post, OE, it gets a battery maintainer on it every time. We don't skip that step.
Well, I don't have to worry about a false low voltage code popping in.
And a lot of the codes we get will be from that particular issue of low voltage because you can create codes for low voltage.
Yeah.
We have received your support request. Please make sure to have the ScanSafe device connected to the vehicle. The key is on with the engine off and the battery maintainer connected to the vehicle.
Don't
Now,
lie,
we're not-
Jason.
We're not going to beat you over that. We do, you know, but it's important, right?
It is
I mean,
very-
it's. I mean, I probably can't quantify it in any way. I mean, would you do a paint job without a clean paint booth, right?
No.
Would you do, you know, a repair with filler without, you know, prepping the metal and doing the surfaces correctly,
Yep.
right? There's rules you have to follow. You talk about welding.
Yeah.
Hey, there's welding tests. There's rules for that. You want to be in this? Don't skip the step. Now,
Yep.
we can help you. It's a small investment to allow us to help you solve the problems that are on the vehicles.
You know, a small investment, but way cheaper than me trying to hire and pay salary, benefits, et cetera, for a diagnostic technician in my facility too. I think a lot of us have to look at that. A couple of things. You know, yesterday we talked about multitasking.
Yep.
I think as body shops, we're trying to multitask and add this to it. We need to stay on our task. Our task is collision repair. We do collision repair things, right? This is not our task, and let's let experts do that for us. And we have to kind of stop thinking of scanning and calibration as this huge profit center. I think there's too many of us are looking at it thinking it's this blue ocean of profit. And people like you are laughing at us going, yeah, go ahead and try to open that center up and tell me how it works for you, right? But,
Exactly.
But there's a lot of work and knowledge here.
Yeah.
And so I know what you don't know. I don't, you know, when I had my, full time, I didn't fix Lamborghinis because I didn't know how to fix
Right.
Lamborghinis.
Stay in your lane.
Know
Yeah.
what you know, right?
Yeah. And if you can't stay in your lane, we will apply lane keep assist to
Yes,
you.
that's what we need. Yes. Industry lane keep assist.
You know, 40 years in the industry, it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Right? It's just blocking and tackling. Blocking and tackling, you got to do it right.
Yeah.
If you don't skip steps, you know, if you go down that path, you know, it's going to come back to bite you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
But how do
it's-
people find out more? Like, you know, we know how to get a hold of you, but how do people find out more about the tool, the service? Do they just go to the website? Is that
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, go right to the website, opusivs.com.
Yep.
And you'll have, you know, all the information about the products that are available. We have a, you know, dedicated sales team that can take phone calls and we have onboarding folks and technical people that can answer questions related to the devices and pricing and all those variables are there. They're always waiting for the phone call.
Sure.
If the shop has CCC estimating and wants to start looking at that, is there something that they need to contact CCC for as well? So you first and then CCC?
They need to just check the level that they have in the CCC world, because there are, as I understand it, 5 different levels. You need to be at the top 2 levels.
With the workflow
The workflow approach,
Yep.
so that you can pull in diagnostic reports.
Yeah, I remember that now.
and
The question came
invoices.
before and it didn't click until
Yes.
just now. I'm like, it doesn't need to be workflow. I remember reading that
Okay.
in the literature. So.
And then after that, it's easy. Once we configure a device,
Yep.
there's really only 2 steps a user has to do. They have to configure us as a vendor.
Okay.
So there would be a push of us as a vendor, and you would have to activate Opus IVS as a vendor. And then number 2 is set up the device, right? And we provide a series of instructions on how to go right into CCC, click on the appropriate button to log in the scanning device.
Yep.
And once you've got that done, you're done. Start scanning vehicles.
All right.
Easy.
And another way to talk to Opus IVS is to join them tomorrow from 1 to 3 Eastern Time on the Collision Hub Roundtable with Opus IVS. We will be, if you haven't signed up for the text alerts, do that. You don't want to register for that. We'll push out the URL for that tomorrow morning, along with the schedule for tomorrow.
Right.
We'll also post it on our social media channels, but from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow. Won't have Bob on the line, but we'll have another Opus IVS representative on the line to answer any questions that you might have about ScanSafe, IVS 360. I mean, any Opus question whatsoever. So tune in for that and come with your questions. So looking forward to that as well. So really appreciate your time. This is fantastic. You and I have got some more work to do yet today, and looking forward to that very much as well.
Still baking the cake, still mixing.
That's right. So thank you for your time. Thank you for all of us. Thank you to all of you for joining us. And again, don't forget, visit the Collision Repair Education Foundation for your $50 donation. Get that limited edition Collision Hub Creft technician shirt. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. We're back on tomorrow morning. We got Larry coming on tomorrow morning, I think.
It's coming. It's going to be a big day in the morning.
Yes, it is. We got we're tomorrow morning. What do we got tomorrow morning?
Well, I'd have to pull up the schedule.
It's all
Way to go,
blurry.
Jason.
I know we've got steering columns tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
We're talking about steering columns inspections on that.
Wow.
Again, we got
Another one that
We started
requires
with,
coding and programming, by the way.
I believe
Steering
we
columns.
open
We're not even going to get to that.
We're opening our morning, I believe, with right to appraisal.
Yes, we are. Yep.
Yeah, and then we're going to do steering columns, and then we're going to close out our day with General Motors. So,
Oh yeah, that's right. We got the world premiere of a General Motors Tradie Bot video tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
So that's what we got. Man, just so much going on.
That's
I
why
can't
I'm in
keep all
leadership.
straight. Yeah.
Just kidding.
So everybody have a great rest of your afternoon and a fantastic evening.